Alright, we're back working on the DoodleBastard. I spent about 30 minutes today sorting out some of the wires on this thing. I figured out that the green is the ground on this, and I found a really cool wiring schematic for a Chinese engine, and actually turns out most of the colors are the same, so this was really easy to sort out. There really wasn't too much to it at all. The only problem was figuring out the wire lengths, because everything was some stupid length. Some things are way too long and some things are just way too short. But I've got this all hooked up here. This is for the kill switch. We don't have one of those yet. I've got these wires figured out here, where I believe that this is going to be the power to fire the whole bike up, and then this of course is going to be your starter wire. And I've got the positive down here. This connects to the battery, and then between this wire and this wire is where our power switch or ignition switch, it turns on the power to the whole bike, would go. And this is also where I should put in a fuse. You can tell there's actually a fusible link there for a glass tube fuse. We'll get these hooked together here pretty much simply like that for today to get it started. And if we can see this thing crank over, it's really the goal. I just want to see this thing crank. I don't know if it's going to sound like a bunch of busted gears inside or what, because the previous guy stripped out the Kickstarter on this. This engine, is, if you remember, originally came from my mini chopper, the blue mini chopper that I had. A friend of mine bought an orange mini chopper at the same time, and he gave that one to me, and I sold them both as a package to a local guy. The local guy had no idea what he was doing, and just broke this thing to high hell. Just totally ruined the bike. And then he asked me to come over to help him to put the engine from the orange bike into the blue bike, because the orange one was supposed to be for his wife later on down the road, but he wanted to ride the blue one right away. So I helped him to put the engine in, and he said, you know, what should I pay you? And I said, you know, I'm just kind of helping you out, you know, don't worry too much about it. He says, why don't you just take the old engine? He said, it doesn't run anyway. And he's right, and I haven't seen this thing do anything except for what you heard, you know, rear, rear. And a couple videos ago when I just hooked up the positive lead to the starter right over here. So anyways, we're going to hook this up to the battery, and we're going to see if it cranks. If it cranks, we're going to see if we get a spark. And if we get a spark, we're going to see about hooking up this carburetor over here. Somebody's revving up. I'm going to see about getting this carburetor hooked up. I've got a temporary throttle cable put in there, rednecked. I'm not even a redneck, but I did a pretty successful job there making that work. And we'll see if we can get the thing started. I mean, I would really like to see some smoke coming out these exhaust pipes. So let's see what happens. Alright, green is the ground, this is connected to ground, this is our CDI computer. These are going to be, let's see, I got a screwdriver here somewhere. A mosquito already eaten me. This is going to be a bad season for mosquitoes. It's been, actually, it's been a colder winter than it has been, but then it warmed up in a hurry. Warmed up in a real hurry, and it's been rainy. And even when it hasn't been so rainy, we've still seen a lot of mosquitoes. Alright, positive connected to the battery. Okay, we get this, and this I believe goes together here. If not, we're going to see some smoke today, and you guys are going to watch something burn. Alright, now I believe that this is the starter solenoid. If I touch this to ground, it should crank. Okay, we're right. That's good. Let's see if we're getting a spark from this thing. CDI on this thing is a little more sophisticated than a Volkswagen, but it's also got a little less to fail because it has no moving parts. Anyway, I'll put that right in here between the cooling fins. Let's see. I don't know what wire was this one. This one was. Alright, watch right in there. We're looking for a spark. We've got spark. This might be easier than anticipated. I don't believe it. Things are never, never this easy. Never, never, never this easy. Alright, put that back around, connect it to the spark plug. Okay. Alright, this carburetor is on here, but I think it's gonna go. I'm gonna take this off temporarily. It's dry currently anyway, it's got no fuel in it. And it wasn't even screwed on tight. Just put that down right over here. Alright. Carburetor cleaner is as good as any for starting fluid. Don't do this at home, kids. Okay, here we go. Let's see, this is going to be our ignition. And fire. Well, I'll be a son of a bitch. I think I might just bolt this carburetor on and dump a little fuel in it. We might have this thing running in just a minute. Alright, while I'm doinking around with that, it's probably a good idea to disconnect the power again. Ow. That was weird. I actually got shocked on that. Shocked on 12 volts DC. Damn mosquitoes. Alright. Nuts. I don't have a 10mm wrench in here. I'm going to have to go dig one out of my other toolbox. Alright, I'm going to go find a wrench. I'll be back in a moment. And I really love this shoulder-mounted gimbal. Gives me a nice stable video. Alright, we got us a 10mm. We'll snug this carburetor up. I think I put an upgraded carburetor or intake manifold on here. I don't remember. I don't remember what I did. I did something out of the ordinary on this. So it came in like 2 or 3 sizes or something, so I just ordered the biggest one, and the biggest one would bolt directly onto this engine. So it won't hurt to have a little bit of a performance upgrade on here. Although the thing at 12 horsepower is going to be more than this thing was ever meant for anyway. As I think these stock Doodlebugs come with 2.5 or something. 2 horsepower, 3, something like that. So 12 is a lot. Alright, we got us a mounted carburetor. Now we've got to get some fuel into it. I'm thinking there's a couple different ways I can do this. This is 2-stroke. I'm going to be using some 2-stroke in here because it's got oil in it. And I figured this thing hasn't been running in a while. It'd be nice to get a little bit of lube in the top end. Yes, the engine does have oil in it otherwise, though. I did put some in there earlier. Just before I started recording. Okay, I don't know if that's going to be enough, but... Okay, it's got some fuel in it. I'm going to go ahead and put the choke on. I don't know what the idle screw is set to, so it could do any kind of wackiness. In fact, do I have a screwdriver here to adjust it if I need to? This thing is going to be loud. Alright, everything should be hooked up. No, we don't have fire. Must hook up positive. Are you positive your positive is hooked? Am now. Here we go. Well, it's definitely trying to run. Looks like it's a bit lean, but I mean it's cold, so let's try it again here. There's not a whole lot of fuel in that carburetor either. I might need to get some more in there. Yeah, that carburetor's dry. Alright, let me go ahead and get a fuel funnel, and I'm going to temporarily dump some fuel down into that carburetor. But this thing is running. This is great. This is great. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Back in a few. Okay. I've got it siphoning down into the carburetor. You can actually see up in there. That's pulling fuel down the line. I think it should be okay, as long as I don't do anything crazy and knock it down, but this is only a very brief and temporary situation we've got set up here. Alright, don't blow ourselves up. Take all proper precautions. Make sure there's a fire extinguisher nearby, and actually there's two, so we're good. Alright, I'm not going to make a spark anywhere near that fuel. Let's go ahead and hook it up down here instead. Alright, cranky, cranky. Uh-oh. We've got a burning wire. This piece of shit wire came with this chopper originally. Way too delicate and too fine of a wire. None of the other wires are overheating except that one. What we're going to do right now is we're going to stop. Because if this wire is burning and we get any fuel dripping down here, we're going to have a fire. So let's go ahead and just disconnect this right now and keep this thing safe. And we're going to get something else on there for cranking. And this is one of the problems I originally had with it. If it didn't fire up right away, I forgot you got to kind of stop because it would just cook the wiring. Right now I can't touch that wire either. It's melting that rubber everywhere. It'll stick to you. I might even be at a stopping point right now, except I'm so damn excited that this thing is actually trying to start. Okay, let's see here. I'm gonna get us another wire for our positive loop. This thing's just a piece of junk. You know, who puts a delicate wire like that on an ignition? Not an ignition, what the hell am I saying? Who puts a delicate wire like that on a starter? And most of it's rubber anyway. Look how fine the copper is inside of there. That's just not enough to do it. Absolutely not enough. This wire that's on here that's going to the engine is actually a larger gauge, but still probably too small because it did get warm. This wire, which is the negative, this actually came off of an SV650 if I'm not mistaken, a later year unit, and it didn't even get warm at all. So optimally, that's really what belongs on here, is a nice heavy gauge wire, and I've got some more, so I'll be rewiring this thing properly and getting rid of crap like this. This is ridiculous. This is just ridiculous. Okay. Well, we're good. Go ahead and get this sorted out. Absolute crap. And it's soldered too. As if that was gonna hold. How hot this wire gets, it better be properly crimped. You can't solder that. What a piece of junk. Okay. Where are my snips? My snips is missing. Well, anyway, while I was off camera, I started to check out the starter, because it didn't sound right to me when I was cranking it over before. It kept binding up, and the motor seems to be fine, and these teeth look good. But when I looked down inside of here, there was all these little strips of metal. So I looked up underneath there, and if you can see it, the starter teeth are all chewed up. So we're going to need a new starter. And that's probably was part of the previous owner abusing this thing too, because the starter was making all kinds of crunching sounds then. So I guess I've got to pick up a new starter for this, and thankfully they're not too expensive. I think they're about 30 bucks. So I'll get a new one ordered. We'll get this thing put all back together, and we'll try again with this thing probably next week, whenever I should manage to find the parts for it. Yeah, this thing is all crunchy. Nothing in here sounds right. I think it swallowed a little bit of metal in the process. So I'm going to have to go through here and fix this mess. Disappointing, yeah, especially since it it's running. But we'll disconnect the battery. I guess I can disconnect the charger at this point too. And just put the covers back on here. Yeah, it sounded almost like the engine was seized up, so I tried turning it over at the crank and the motor turned over just fine. So it the starter just ate itself. We can fix it. Till next week, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, thumbs down if you think it sucks, which it does.